Please welcome Chief Information Security Officer, Amazon Web Services, CJ Moses.
Love the energy. Love the energy. Thank you all for joining us here at Inforce. Security is a discipline that is constantly changing. New technologies like generative AI can present new challenges, but also new opportunities. Opportunities to reevaluate and to rethink how we improve our defense mechanisms through techniques like automation and threat detection. At AWS, we invest deeply in security. Protecting our customers is our top priority. Today, we look at the steps we've taken to help build more resilient systems in this ever-changing landscape. So let's cut through the noise and dive into the real-world solutions that underline our deep commitment to keeping your environment safe while you focus on innovation. We work closely with you to better understand your particular business needs. 90% of the services and features that we build come from your requests. Years ago, when I was writing the very first version of our security white paper, the one question that customers regularly asked me was, what is your responsibility and what is ours? From that very basic question, we created a guiding principle, the security shared responsibility model. The easiest way I know to explain this is, if you have access, you have responsibility. So in the case of infrastructure such as data centers, you have no access, therefore that is exclusively our responsibility. We call this security of the cloud. In the case of architecting and implementing your use of our services, you'll of course have access, and therefore will have responsibilities. We call this security in the cloud. And at AWS, we provide you with the guidance, services, and technology to enable you to move more quickly while remaining secure. We are continually investing in new technologies that make security more affordable, effective, and straightforward. But our work doesn't stop there. Security is about people and culture than it is technology. For security strategy to be successful, you need to have a deep understanding of the human psychology. Back in the early 2000s, I was working with the FBI's Behavioral Sciences Unit conducting interviews of convicted cybercriminals. This was an extension of an already successful program for creating criminal profiles of serial killers. During these interviews, I used a profiling algorithm which at a high level consisted of three components: the why, or the motivations, the how, being the methods, and the who, being the attributes of the person that was committing the crime. Our interviews tried to fill in the details on the first two parts of the algorithm, the why and the how, in an effort to understand the who. In other words, if you can determine the why and the how a crime was committed, it would help lead to the who. My biggest takeaway from being part of this program was that it's not a computer committing the crime. There's always a human behind the keyboard. And in cybersecurity, the more you know about the why and the how, the better you can understand the who. When I later joined AWS, I was able to use some of these learnings to help build better security products. I figured out that the algorithm also worked if we lacked the how. But by developing threat intelligence on the why and potentially on the who, it enabled us to create better defenses that are aligned to counter their preferred methods. Every action we take and every defensive measure we build in AWS takes the human element into consideration. Today, I know that AWS is architected to be the most secure and flexible way to run your business. Every year, we release thousands of services and features that have been rigorously tested and to meet our extremely high security standards, because good enough is never good enough for us or our customers. For years, we pushed the limits of conventional virtualization systems, but we knew we could do better. You see, the problem with traditional virtualization was that the hypervisor had direct access to the storage and network devices, so any vulnerability in the hypervisor could potentially be exploited by attackers to access or modify network traffic and data. These systems couldn't provide the level of security and performance we wanted for our customers, so we decided to build our own virtualization technology, starting at the foundation, the silicon. So we went to work, and after 5 years of research and development, we released the AWS Nitro system. It was carefully designed to offload virtualization and security functions to dedicated Amazon-designed hardware and software, enabling near bare metal performance and enhanced security. Nitro is a fundamental component of our infrastructure, and it was built to provide the assurances and protection to meet the needs of even the most sensitive workloads. Over the past decade, Nitro chips have evolved quite a bit, with each generation improving on the past. Our latest 5th generation Nitro chip has lower latency, higher throughput, and the ability to handle more packets per second. We know that our customers' needs around confidential computing fall into a couple of distinct security and privacy dimensions. The need to protect data from the cloud operator, that's us. The need to protect data from the operators inside on the customer side, that's all of you. And AWS has the capabilities to address both of these customer needs. The Nitro system is designed so that an AWS operator doesn't have access to customer data addressing the first requirement. The way we achieve this is by completely removing unnecessary syscalls from the OS running in the Nitro card to prevent these types of interactions. As a result, there is no path for any system or AWS operator to log into an EC2 Nitro host, access the memory of an EC2 instance, or access any customer data. We also engineered the Nitro system with a hardware-based root of trust using the Nitro security chip, allowing us to cryptographically measure and validate the system. When AWS made its digital sovereignty pledge last year, we committed to providing greater transparency and assurances to customers about how AWS services are designed and operated. This is especially important when it comes to handling your data. As part of that increased transparency, we engaged NCC Group, a leading cybersecurity consulting firm in the UK. NCC has conducted an independent architecture review of the Nitro system and the security assurances we made to our customers. I'm happy to share that NCC has now issued its report and affirmed our claims. Every time you spin up a new Nitro-based EC2 instance, you automatically benefit from the advanced security and performance capabilities we built into the Nitro system. Another example of our investment in innovation can be found in our serverless architecture. We knew that containers couldn't provide the strict security boundaries we required to meet our customers' needs. Our obsession for better security gave birth to Firecracker. Firecracker is our open source virtualization technology, purpose-built for creating and managing secure multi-tenant container and function-based services. We built Firecracker to be highly secure with multiple levels of isolation and protection. Firecracker uses a minimal virtualized device model with just the necessary components to run a micro VM. This minimalist design helped us to reduce the attack surface and achieve the performance you need. There are 3 key security features that make Firecracker unique. First, Firecracker statically links all its dependencies at build time, so it's much harder to dynamically load malicious libraries from the host system to Firecracker during runtime. Secondly, we developed a jailer to constrain the resources that can be accessed by the Firecracker process. So even if a threat actor managed to escape from the VM boundary, they would only have limited access to the resources assigned to Firecracker and confined to the jailer, hence the name. And finally, the Firecracker process is isolated using control groups and is given access to a very small, tightly controlled set of syscalls, significantly minimizing the kernel attack surface. So when you spin up an AWS Lambda function or use AWS Fargate to run your container-based applications, you can rest assured that the underlying infrastructure is not only performant and scalable, but it's also secure, thanks to Firecracker. We are constantly innovating on your behalf, so you can continue to focus on what truly matters, safely creating value for your customers. So far, we've talked about how security is embedded into our hardware, but what about software security? How do we ensure that the millions of lines of code at AWS spread across hundreds of services meet our very high security standards? One way we achieve this is by having a rigorous yet agile application security review process. Last year alone, we performed over 7,500 AppSec reviews. Our AppSec process enables engineering teams to identify and address security issues early, where it's easier and more efficient to fix. At AWS, our builders have ownership of their security of their services. So we provide them with the tools, training, and guidance on security expectations to enable ownership and empower them to fix issues early in the development process. As the code evolves, a number of internal systems perform security testing and provide feedback to builders automatically. This use of automation helps our builders move faster and reduces the need for humans to identify every potential issue. It also enables us to take security outputs from issues and reviews and feed them directly into our automation process so that multiple teams benefit from those lessons that have been learned. Without exception, nothing gets released to production unless it successfully passes through the AppSec review process. By now, it should be clear that when you run your applications on AWS, you inherit a world-class security team. This includes the people that work on your behalf and the capabilities that allow you to operate securely. That's because AWS supports over 140 security standards and compliance certifications, including the likes of PCI DSS, HIPAA, GDPR. Okay, there's a lot of alphabet soup there, but you get the point, a lot of them. AWS offers the tools to help you meet your compliance obligations. And as we are assessed regularly by third-party independent auditors for certification, audits, audit reports, and attestations of compliance. However, one challenge with these audits is that the auditors traditionally have to physically visit a data center. Not only is this inefficient and time-consuming, and from a security standpoint, the fewer humans you bring into our facilities, the better. As the number of audits increased every year, we wanted to reduce the friction and decrease the risk. So we now offer virtual tours of our data centers via the AWS Digital Audit Symposium. Even under scrutiny and evaluations, we're able to exceed a wide range of geographic and industry standards, and we continue to pass, impress, and build trust. As I look back at the world we've accomplished in the security space over the last 17 years, the one thing that never ceases to amaze me is the immense scale of our operations. AWS spans 99 availability zones within 31 geographic regions around the world, with the most extensive global cloud infrastructure. One of the challenges we're having with such a large global presence and having work with a wide diversity of customers and workloads is that we often become a target. Sometimes we are targeted directly, and sometimes indirectly when our customers are. Our number one priority is to prevent security issues from causing disruption to your business. As we work to defend our infrastructure and your data, we get a front seat to what is happening on the internet. And we have a unique opportunity to gather a lot of security intelligence at scale and in real time. This is extremely important because scale breeds intelligence, which leads to better security. Every second, we ingest 300 gigabytes of VPC flow logs. Every minute, we analyze 3 terabytes of data. Every day, Amazon Managed Rules in AWS WAF process more than 350 billion requests. And last year, we mitigated over 700,000 DDoS attacks. So as we collect more threat intelligence, we continuously integrate it into the services such as GuardDuty and Amazon Route 53 Resolver DNS Firewall to adapt and enhance our defense mechanisms. We also provide you with a comprehensive set of services and prescriptive guidance to help you build an effective mitigation strategy against the humans behind the keyboard in the attacks they perpetrate. The effectiveness of our mitigation strategies relies heavily on the ability to quickly capture, analyze, and act on threat intelligence. Always on, always monitoring, always working on your behalf to proactively keep your data safe. At AWS, we focus on mean time to defense. This is a measure of how quickly we can take threat intelligence and use it to build new security mechanisms and push them directly into services such as Guard Duty, Inspector, and WAF, as just a few of the examples. One way we do this is by using a globally distributed network of threat sensors. This network, along with tools such as automated malware analysis, active network probing, botnet tracking, help us understand the threat actors' tactics, techniques, and procedures. In certain scenarios, we'll also specially designed and isolated devices to join the third party's botnet. By doing so, we have a front seat to the commands sent from the command and control hosts, which allows us to stop attacks before the first packet even makes it to the target. In the first 3 months of this year, we disrupted 1 million outbound botnet-driven DDoS attacks from abusing the internet at large, thanks to the threat intelligence we got from analysis of 5.4 billion signals from our internet threat sensors and 1.5 billion signals from our active network probes. Another example is ransomware. Traditionally, ransomware had a standard operating mode that we're all familiar with. Threat actors would encrypt critical data and extort victims for money. However, we've seen a shift in these tactics in some areas. Instead of encrypting and decrypting data, they simply prefer to inflict damage to their victims by stealing their data and or releasing it to the internet, or even worse, just deleting it altogether. This is often called wiperware. We saw this new tactic in practice in the wake of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Some actors' motivation went from ransomware one day to wiperware the next. Clearly, their motivation, or the why from our algorithm earlier in the presentation, changed from making money to causing disruption to the command and control of the Ukrainian military and chaos to the Ukrainian public. Again, it's the people behind the keyboard, so understanding their motivations can prepare us to protect against the how. For example, AWS customers can use AWS Backup to protect their data from unauthorized tampering through cross-account backups and centrally managed backup policies. In addition, AWS Backup Vault Lock enforces write once, read many, or worm backups to help protect your backups in your vault from accidental or malicious deletion, disasters, or the likes of ransomware. Let's not forget about the data encryption, that is, which should be an integral part of your security strategy. Of course, whenever possible, the further up the stack you move your solutions, the more you reduce your attack surface, since the infrastructure is managed for you. After all, the best patching is the kind of patching you don't have to do. As an example of why this is important, in the wake of the Log4j vulnerability disclosure in 2021, we patched AWS Lambda within 24 hours, including our customers' environments without any customer action. But we don't stop there. Often, the threat intel we capture is critical not only for AWS and our customers, but for the security of the wider internet. In these cases, we work closely with the security community and partners around the world to isolate and take down threat actors. So far this year, we've shared our intelligence of nearly 1,000 botnet command and control hosts with relevant hosting providers and domain registrars to take down the botnet's control infrastructure. And in the same time period, we traced back and worked with external parties to dismantle the sources of 230,000 L7 and HTTPS DDoS attacks. By making the internet a safer place, we can all focus our attention on the important things: innovation and delivering for our customers. Next, I'm thrilled to invite Becky Weiss to talk about the security in the cloud and exciting new launches. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, CJ. It's a great privilege to be here today. So far, we've heard CJ talk about security of the cloud, all the work that we at AWS are putting in behind the scenes to ensure that you have a secure foundation upon which to build. And now, we're going to talk about the second part of that shared responsibility model, security in the cloud. And in particular, we're going to talk about some of the services and capabilities that we at AWS provide you, our customers, so that you can build and operate securely on AWS. And yes, that means this is the part with the launches. So one of the best parts of my job here at AWS is that I get to talk to a lot of customers about what's top of mind for them as they work towards securing their cloud environment. Over the last few years, this concept of zero trust has figured increasingly prominently in these discussions. But what exactly is zero trust? Well, zero trust is a concept that's often defined in terms of what it argues against, which was an argument that relied solely on a network perimeter for its security. By now, many of us are familiar with some of the challenges that accompanied such an environment. For one thing, when something got inside that perimeter, movement among the systems inside got easier. And also, the visibility into that activity wasn't always there either. So zero trust, in contrast, offers a better way. In a zero trust architecture, it's not just a network perimeter that's evaluated once upon entry. Rather, it's a combination of identity, network, device, and other increasingly sophisticated factors that get evaluated, ideally, on each and every access. Now, I'll admit, there's a lot of buzz around zero trust, maybe even some hype. And we do see a lot of people getting stuck in the theory. So you might reasonably be asking yourself, well, this sounds great and everything, but how concretely do I pull this off? Where exactly do I start? So as it turns out, AWS has had conviction in the zero trust approach for over a decade. The combination of identity and network signals has been baked deeply into services such as AWS Identity and Access Management and Amazon Virtual Private Cloud for years now. It's not new. In fact, AWS IAM right now is handling over 1 billion AWS API calls per second worldwide. And I'm here excited to tell you about how we're building even more, our next chapter in our zero trust journey with you, our customers. I'm going to talk to you about some building blocks that we're building to enable you to build these zero trust capabilities into your own workloads. Let's start by imagining a corporate application that you require your users to access over a VPN, maybe because there aren't other controls. So your users have access to this application because they're in the right network. And let's say you'd like to modernize this application. You'd like to add user authentication, you'd like to add device posture, you'd like to define some fine-grained rules about exactly what users can access this application under what circumstances. And you could build all of that, but there's some assembly required. Or you could use the recently launched AWS Verified Access. AWS Verified Access gives you a zero-trust user-facing endpoint that you can put in front of your application instead of that VPN requirement, typically without requiring fundamental changes to your application's core business logic. This new service can take care of authenticating your users by integrating either with AWS's own IAM Identity Center or with an OIDC identity provider of your choice. It's also integrated with CrowdStrike and Jamf as device trust providers, enabling customers to create rules such as a user can only access this application when they're on a fully patched and up-to-date laptop. And all of these built-in authorization rules get evaluated on each request before the request even reaches your application. Now for the builders here, I want to zoom in on one particular detail of AWS Verified Access that I think you're going to find interesting. So what you're looking at here is an example of a permission that a customer might put in front of a verified access application. This is something we launched recently. What you're looking at is Cedar, our open source, purpose-built authorization policy language and evaluation engine suitable for a wide range of use cases. Cedar is optimized for expressiveness, performance, and we prove its correctness using our automated reasoning techniques. And it's also at the heart of the launch I'm going to talk about next. So when customers talk to us about challenges with security in the cloud, one topic that comes up is building authorization systems for the resources within their own applications. These systems can take months to build, And because they also tend to be use case specific, scaling that effort across a large number of applications is also a bit of a challenge. Frankly, building these authorization systems and getting them correct is hard. So instead of spending time on the mechanics and correctness of an authorization system, wouldn't you rather spend that time focusing on what your application actually does? And that is why today I am thrilled to announce the general availability of Amazon Verified Permissions. This is a new service that enables customers to centrally implement and enforce fine-grained permissions to the resources within the applications that they build and deploy. And Amazon Verified Permissions are expressed in terms of that new CEDAR policy language that you just saw. Amazon Verified Permissions takes care of evaluating granular permissions within your application so that you get to focus on your application's core business logic. It also helps you scale your compliance audits by automatically checking that the permissions that you define are working the way that you intended. So as you can see, we're really excited about this next chapter of Zero Trust. Now, going back to a few minutes ago, that question of zero trust versus network controls, because we actually think that's a false choice. We know that network controls and perimeters will always be central to security in the cloud, working in concert with, not instead of, those zero trust capabilities. So I wanted to talk about some things we're doing to help you there. Let's start by talking about how you connect to your EC2 instances. Many of you are using AWS Systems Manager Session Manager to interactively access your EC2 instances. But at the same time, SSH is a widespread and popular tool for controlling and managing EC2 instances. Now, for quite some time, our customers have been able to use Amazon EC2 Instance Connect to SSH to their EC2 instances with the added benefits of IAM authentication and authorization and ephemeral keys. But until now, that still meant that you needed network access to that EC2 instance, either directly via a public IP address or by way of a bastion host that you were responsible for patching, maintaining, and securing. So today, I am excited to announce the release of Amazon EC2 Instance Connect Endpoint. This is a new capability that allows customers to SSH directly to their EC2 instances, even if they're in a private subnet. So EC2 Instance Connect Endpoint eliminates the need to have an internet-facing EC2 host, and unlike a single bastion host, it's designed for high availability. EC2 Instance Connect Endpoint also improves your security posture by relying on IAM for strong authentication and authorization of connections before they even reach your EC2 instances. And you also benefit from centralized visibility. Because these connections are logged to AWS CloudTrail, everything's fully auditable. Okay, so that was an EC2 instance. And now we're going to zoom all the way out from that EC2 instance to your whole AWS environment, where we at AWS continue to invest in the power and breadth of all of these different kinds of controls for the different sorts of resources offered by AWS, from compute to databases to networking and storage. And each time we launch one of these new controls, our customers are able to take a step forward towards securing their cloud environments. Now, at the same time, we also hear from customers that there's a need to continue working to simplify security in the cloud. There's always going to be a need for a scalable and clearly defined perimeter around your cloud environment, in addition to, certainly not instead of, these ubiquitous fine-grained controls. So why is that? Well, we see a lot of customers observing that they're operating large and growing AWS environments with thousands of AWS accounts and even more people operating in those AWS accounts. And they also recognize that leveling up a large cloud security staff on cloud security skills is, well, it's a bit of a journey. So they ask us at AWS for a set of preventive controls that they can put in place to define their identity and network boundary. And they tell us that these controls need to be complementary to all of these individual IAM policies. The idea is this: Even if one of these operators somewhere in this large environment has made a mistake and misconfigured a resource, in fact, even if they're actively trying to create an outside path, our customers tell us these misconfigurations must not result in unexpected access. So I get to work with our customers on the topic of IAM quite a bit. In fact, it's my favorite topic. This topic of a straightforward perimeter features prominently in these discussions. Now, I find that each customer organization has its own words to describe the goal that they're after, but it almost always goes something like this. Regardless of which of AWS's hundreds of services we're using, regardless of how large a cloud environment we operate with, how many AWS accounts, regardless of how many people are operating in here and the mix of their cloud security skills, we need to know that our data and our resources is going to be accessible to our organization only. And in many cases, they also add that we need to know that this data is going to remain within networks that we control. And therefore, a large part of what we work on at AWS and our security in the cloud features and services works backward directly from this goal statement. We even have a name for it. Call it data perimeters. And our focus on data perimeters is not new. We're on a long journey together with you, our customers, continually investing in making this perimeter ever more straightforward to implement at scale. And over the years, we've invested heavily in two central concepts of the data perimeter. One is the AWS organization, and the other is the Amazon Virtual Private Cloud. Today, our customers are using the service control policies features of AWS organizations to create broad-based rules over what their users can do in their cloud environment. One example, preventing data from being written to AWS resources that are outside their organization's control. And they use the VPC endpoint policy capability to assert that all AWS-bound requests from their network are being made on behalf of them. And it's in that vein that I'd like to tell you about AWS's most recent data perimeter launch. I'm going to guess that most of you, are familiar with the AWS Management Console, or the console. AWS Management Console Private Access, which was made generally available recently, allows you to take your virtual private cloud network along with any on-premise or corporate networks that are connected to it and limit all use of the console to your organization only. So why would you want to do something like this? Well, let's go back to that previous diagram where the VPC, the Virtual Private Cloud Network, was one of the focal points of the data perimeter. So you're trying to assert that whenever anyone or anything in your VPC is communicating with AWS, that they are doing so on behalf of the environments that you control. Now, for a long time, if these requests were going directly to the service, you've been able to use virtual private cloud policies to achieve this goal. Now, we've heard from customers that they're looking for a similar kind of control, except for users interactively signing in and using the AWS console. In other words, if someone's in your network using AWS, you want to be sure that they're doing so on behalf of you. But let's say they're not. Let's say someone's in your network trying to sign in to an outside unexpected AWS account. Now, it doesn't matter who this is. It doesn't matter if they're an employee or an intruder. It doesn't matter why they're trying to do it. All that matters is that this is an account that you were not expecting. And you can see here that AWS Management Console Private Access is preventing them from signing in. Good. Okay, now in this next example, someone's using IAM Identity Center, which, by the way, is one of our recommended best practice ways of having your users access the console. And they're a legitimate user is signing into a recognized account that you are expecting. They succeed, as expected, and the lock icon confirms for us that indeed they're using AWS Management Console Private Access. And if you're not yet using IAM Identity Center, don't worry. AWS Management Console Private Access works equally well for all the different forms of sign-in. In fact, we saw an IAM user in our last failed sign-in example. And I wanted to show you one more level of detail into what AWS Management Console Private Access is. So it's a VPC endpoint, in fact, a pair of them, and you use DNS to route requests from users' browsers to this endpoint. And what you're looking at here is actually the crux of the feature. This is the VPC endpoint policy that goes along with console private access. And this policy here that you're looking at is a broad-based policy that says all sign-in and use of the console from this network needs to be for accounts, for people within my organization. So that's exactly what this control does. It asserts that all use of the AWS console from within your networks is occurring on behalf of the environments that you control. And just like all of our other VPC endpoints, there's nothing sitting here in the middle intercepting your TLS connections or inspecting the traffic. Rather, this is an example of one of those identity level controls that's baked deeply into our network so that our sign-in system can reject the outside login attempts. So far, we've been talking about preventive controls. I'd now like to move to the realm of detective controls, where we at AWS have also been hard at work on your behalf. Amazon GuardDuty is the service that monitors your AWS environment, proactively detecting and notifying on security threats across the breadth of AWS's service offerings. And I'm excited to share with you 3 new ways in which we've expanded the scope of what GuardDuty has to offer. First, Amazon GuardDuty now offers threat detection for Amazon Aurora by profiling and monitoring access activity to existing and new databases and using machine learning to accurately detect suspicious logins. Second, GuardDuty recently added EKS runtime monitoring to detect runtime threats from over 30 security findings to help you protect your EKS clusters. And then finally, we've expanded GuardDuty's threat detection coverage to support AWS Lambda functions by detecting malicious activity, such as a Lambda function that seems to have been repurposed for unauthorized crypto mining, or one that seems to be communicating with known bad actors or servers. Siemens is a great example of how GuardDuty is a critical component for any security strategy. One of the primary drivers of Siemens' decision to use AWS was to strengthen their security posture, automate the running of important security tasks, and centralize access to all of their data. So they use EKS runtime monitoring to deepen threat detection inside their containerized workloads, GuardDuty RDS protection to help protect data stored in their Amazon Aurora databases, and GuardDuty Lambda protection to detect threats to their serverless applications. Now, as a builder myself, I know that I'm responsible for the security of the code that I write. But I also know that I don't have my whole security team sitting right next to me for each and every line of code that I write, as much as I'd enjoy that. Now, by using automated tools early on to improve the security of the code that we write and find issues early on, we can benefit everyone and get to our business outcomes sooner. So if you work closely with AWS Lambda functions, you're going to be excited to hear that today we are making code scans for Lambda generally available. Now, Amazon Inspector could already scan Lambda functions and their associated layers for software vulnerabilities in their package dependencies. And now with this new feature, Inspector can also scan your own code for security vulnerabilities, such as injection flaws, data leaks, weak or missing crypto, and it has a high true positive rate. It provides actionable security findings and remediation guidance that follow AWS Security's own best practices. Now, we all know that modern applications rely increasingly on open source and third-party dependencies. In fact, if we look at our own open source software, the AWS SDK, we can see that it pulls in quite a few dependencies of its own. And in practice, that means deep and wide dependency trees, which need to be managed on an ongoing basis. And we hear from builders that they need tools to manage, track, and analyze packages and deployable artifacts, such as container images, Lambda functions, and the software that they deploy to EC2 instances. So today, we are excited to announce the launch of a new capability within Amazon Inspector to allow you to automatically and centrally manage SBOM, or Security Bill of Materials, exports. With one click, you can now export SBOMs in open standard formats for all inspector-monitored resources to a pre-configured S3 bucket. And from there, you'll be able to download the SBOM artifact, run Athena queries on it, or create QuickSight dashboards to gain further insights. And this complements the existing continual vulnerability management capabilities within Inspector by providing a detailed software dependency list, contributing to your wider efforts in securing your software. Our journey to help you improve your security posture by implementing more comprehensive zero-trust architectures, robust data perimeters, and granular purpose-built controls continues as we constantly innovate on your behalf. And next, we're going to hear from one of our customers about how their security culture and renewed focus on end-to-end security is helping them scale and operate more securely on AWS. Thank you so much.
The power of one may be strong, but the power of 80,000? It's unstoppable. And today, like every day, our goal is to put customers first, to welcome you with an experience designed with you in mind. Because at Delta, it's not just the destination, it's the journey that makes the difference.
Please welcome Senior Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer, Delta Airlines, Debbie Wheeler.
Good morning, and thank you. In 2022, 420 million plus individuals experienced a data breach. And in 2022, Delta Airlines was entrusted by 177 million passengers to deliver them safely to their final destinations while protecting their personally identifiable information. Ours is a complex industry full of regulations and lots of safety protocols. And with a team of 90,000 people around the world, connecting millions of passengers to their final destinations, doing so safely and securely, a culture of security is imperative. I'd like to share with you today 3 elements we believe contribute to the security environment in Delta. And the first starts with fostering a security-aware culture. At Delta, people are our business. A vibrant security culture that embraces the values, the shared values of our people, are critical to how we secure our customer information and our employee information. We believe our people are key in thwarting and defending the airline against the cyber threats we experience, and allowing us to maintain a world-class operation. The first element of our security program starts with leadership. From the CEO to the CISO, to our ground handling crews, to our gate agents, every member of the Delta team must embrace a safe and secure culture in order to provide for the protection of our customers and our employees. Leadership sets that example. Walking the walk and talking the talk, we expect our employees to follow. But leadership expects accountability. And people need to buy into the message that we're delivering. And in order for them to do so, we need to enable them with the tools, the processes, and data that allow them to protect the information that our customers entrust to our care. In a cloud environment, you build it, you run it, you own it. And we've had to transition how we think about security and how we enable our people to do that. So as we have embraced the journey to the cloud, we have had to shift left the security inside of Delta, depending on our development teams to build security in from the beginning of their development process, rather than tacking it on at the end. And in order to do that, Delta has partnered with AWS and created the reference architecture library that contains security-approved patterns, configurations, requirements, and guardrails that we expect our developers to implement into their code. In addition, the security team at Delta has been focused on automation. Automation allows our security services to scale across Delta's vast IT portfolio. The use of automation through AWS Security Hub, AWS Guard Duty, and AWS Config enables the security team to provide our developers with centralized visibility to how their applications are complying with our security requirements at any point during the development process. The goal being no more surprise security findings prior to moving to production. Ours is a people-oriented environment. And prior to our cloud journey, Delta has always been laser-focused on safety and security. The third element that I want to speak to you today with respect to our program and what we believe makes it successful is perhaps the most important element. And that is embracing the culture and the values your people have and embedding your security message into that culture and into those values. As I said, we are a diverse workforce, 90,000 people, 70,000 of whom are customer-facing on any given day. They're using a myriad of digital devices and applications to serve our customers to protect their physical safety as well as their digital safety. And as I said, our people are critical to that mission. In order to ensure that they're well-equipped to provide those services to our customers, we've worked tirelessly with our employees to help them understand security habits or hygiene that they can practice at home. Our thinking is, if we can teach them how to take care of their information in their personal life and teach them how they can help their loved ones care for their information, they'll bring those habits back into the work environment, and that will extend to how they protect the information that our customers and fellow employees entrust to their care. Safety first, always. It's our core value. It headlines our flight plan. Our flight plan reflects Delta's goals and objectives on an annual basis. And while the flight plan changes year to year, what never changes is safety first, always. When I met with CJ Moses and Steve Schmidt several weeks ago, we talked about the journey that Delta has been on, and we talked about these core principles that we believe contribute to the success of our security awareness program. And they felt strongly that in sharing these principles with all of you, there may be benefit in how you develop your own awareness programs. But I recognize that not every industry, what works for Delta may not work for you. We are all under a constant barrage of threats. But what I will share with you is this. Our security-aware culture has not impeded our ability to innovate. It has not impeded the ability that we have to collaborate with our development teams and with our business partners. If anything, it has strengthened those collaborations, and it has allowed our development teams to move in a more agile way in securing the applications and the services that they're designing. Fostering this environment is contributing to how our teams are able to protect not just the physical passenger, but the digital passenger as well. I'd like to thank CJ for inviting me to speak with you this morning, and I'd like to remind you all to please fly Delta. Thank you.
Thank Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. It's always great to see how customers leverage AWS to innovate safely. So far, we've talked about the shared responsibility model and how a culture of security empowers you to build the right security strategy for your business. But there is another critical component that extends the benefits of AWS, and that's our AWS partner network. Our broad marketplace provides you with access to thousands of third-party solutions that integrate deeply into AWS and address specialized security needs. But one thing we hear loud and clear is that customers want the centralized security data from the cloud, on premises, and custom sources to gain better visibility and insights, which is difficult with all the different logging formats. To help you with this challenge, we recently released Amazon Security Lake, our new automated data lake service that enables customers to centrally aggregate, manage, and derive value from the security-related logs and event data. Data in Security Lake is stored in an open cybersecurity schema framework format, an open standard developed in collaboration with other industry leaders. Today, we have over 50 partners that integrate directly with Security Lake to store and provide security analytics to our customers. One customer that relies heavily on Amazon Security Lake is FINRA. FINRA enables investors and firms to participate in the stock market with confidence by safeguarding its integrity. They use a wide variety of security tools to secure their AWS environment and ensure the security of their data. Using Amazon Security Lake, they centrally manage their security data, saving substantial time and effort in deriving value from their data. Now, another thing you told us is that when it comes to choosing partner solutions, you want to have the assurance that the third-party products you choose are designed to integrate with your existing AWS services. That's why I'm excited to announce the preview of AWS built-in partner solutions. Thank you. You can learn more by browsing the AWS built-in partner page, offerings by use case. Once released in AWS Marketplace later this year, you'll be able to purchase partner software coupled with AWS native tools in an automated deployment, powered by infrastructure as code tools and validated by AWS experts. And while we're on the subject of partners, I'm excited to announce a new initiative that we're launching today in collaboration with our global systems integrators, the AWS Global Partner Security Initiative. With this new initiative, AWS will be jointly developing end-to-end security solutions and managed services, leveraging the capabilities, scale, and deep security knowledge of our GSI partners. Our partners will leverage Amazon Security Lake to provide customers the most robust cyber signals and threat intelligence information. We already have 5 partners lined up: Atos, Deloitte, PwC, Accenture, and Kyndryl. And we will be onboarding more soon. Finally, we know that our customers sometimes struggle to operationalize their security for all sorts of reasons, including staffing or skills shortages. This is exactly why our AWS Partner Network has created 3 competencies containing partners with some of the world's most talented AWS security experts. If you need software and consulting solutions for specific workloads or use cases, then you can find a partner in the security services competency. For 24/7 managed security services, our partners in the Level 1 MSSP competency can provide you with all the expertise you need. And finally, partners in the cloud operations competency offer you comprehensive solutions to help you with governance, monitoring, observability, compliance, and auditing. Security is a constantly evolving landscape, so let's shift gears a little bit and look at the areas where we're investing in as we prepare for what lies ahead. For the past few months, generative AI, yes, I said it, and large language models have been capturing everyone's imagination. Generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence that can create new texts, photos, videos, even code from simple language prompts. Generative AI is democratizing content creation by providing simple yet extremely powerful tools that are open and accessible to everyone. However, without clear security guidance and governance, generative AI risks introducing a number of security and privacy risks. As with any other tool, there's an opportunity for people to misuse it. Threat actors could leverage generative AI to automate the creation of phishing emails, social engineering attacks, and other types of malicious content. Many of the generative AI services available today have been trained to prevent malicious use and have some form of guardrails that prevent users from abusing their capabilities. But unfortunately, there are almost always ways and scenarios where motivated actors will find their way to abuse them. However, that same power and ease of use can make artificial intelligence an indispensable tool in the hands of security engineers. At AWS, we help you automate the identification and resolution of issues more effectively, and machine learning is one of the biggest areas of impact. We're examining how large language models can improve security throughout the threat prevention, detection, and response cycles. A couple of months ago, we announced Amazon Bedrock and multiple generative AI services and capabilities to help you build and scale your own generative AI applications. Bedrock provides you the broad range of foundational models so that you can choose the ones that best fit your needs. Bedrock is yet another example of how AWS is carefully considering the security implications so that you don't have to. Bedrock enables private fine-tuning of foundation models and supports the encryption, access control, and auditing with AWS IAM, KMS, and CloudTrail. And with AWS Private Link, data is securely transferred through the AWS network and never through the public internet. Bedrock never uses customer data to train the underlying models. Instead, Bedrock makes a separate copy of the base foundation model that is accessible only to you, and trains this private copy of the model. I think the easiest way to leverage generative AI for security is when it's embedded invisibly into applications. That's why we released Amazon Code Whisperer, our AI-powered code companion that radically improves developer productivity by generating code suggestions in real time. Code Whisperer is the only AI coding companion with built-in security scanning to help you find remediations for hard-to-detect vulnerabilities. In addition, it can filter out biased or unfair code recommendations and can flag these code suggestions that resemble open source code. If developers choose to use that code, Code Whisperer logs the acceptance along with the licensing information. And our efforts to improve developer productivity extend to support the full development lifecycle, because we know how important it is to be able to identify and address security vulnerabilities as early as possible. That's why I'm excited to announce today the public preview of Amazon CodeGuru Security. This newest service in our AppSec toolchain integrates with IDEs and the CI/CD pipelines and uses ML and automated reasoning to help you build more secure code by detecting vulnerabilities in your code at any stage of the development lifecycle. CodeGuru Security's enhanced algorithms help engineers and InfoSec teams save time by reducing false positive detections. And how many of you feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of security findings you need to analyze? I know I do. I think we all struggle with the alert fatigue from time to time. Some of our customers run thousands of applications in AWS, so they generate millions of findings every week. Humans alone are not able to deal with the increasing complexity and volume of security threats. We found that the key in managing modern security is to lean on artificial intelligence and machine learning to help prioritize findings and accelerate incident response. That's why today I'm excited to announce that we're expanding finding groups, a feature in Amazon Detective that uses ML to distill thousands of security findings to connected security events. Thank you. Finding groups enables you to examine multiple activities as they relate to a single security event by analyzing thousands of unique security findings aggregated from AWS Security Hub across hundreds of AWS resources. The output of this feature makes it easier to understand the complex interactions that resulted in a potential issue or security event. Detective can now group Amazon Inspector and Guard Duty findings to help you answer hard questions like, was the EC2 instance compromised because of a vulnerability? Or how did the threat actor move laterally within my infrastructure? After the analysis, Finding Groups produces interactive visualizations to help you conveniently view all of the details related to multiple items in the single panel. Finding Groups also maps according to the MITRE ATT&CK framework to help you improve threat detection. However, there are many more areas where LLMs can have a significant impact on security teams by enhancing and complementing tools and processes. For example, we can train generative AI models to create threat hunting queries, summarize the event data from an attack, write a remediation code for vulnerabilities, write penetration test scripts to automate the creation of YARA rules for malware detection. With generative AI taking care of these lower-level tasks, we can scale out our security teams and enable them to focus on innovation and higher-level operations. As for mitigating generative AI-based attacks, we need to remember that this technology only makes it easier for people that don't have deep experience to create malicious code. So what generative AI really changes is not how the malicious code works, but how it gets created. For example, even though these tools may be used to generate more sophisticated and accurate phishing emails, the way we protect our users against them shouldn't and doesn't need to really change. Another area we're focused on at AWS is security in a world where quantum computers are as prevalent as today's classical computers. Classical processors use bits to perform their operations, whereas quantum computers use qubits to run multi-dimensional algorithms. Quantum computers, by encoding information in quantum systems like atoms or photons, promise to speed up some specific computational tasks that are beyond the reach of classical computers. Additionally, the amount of information a qubit system can represent grows exponentially. For example, information that 500 qubits could easily represent will not even be possible with more than 2 to the 500th classical bits. For context, even if you were to run one of today's most powerful supercomputers continuously for billions of years, it would not be able to calculate this number. Building these machines is a significant challenge, and we had to come up with a new way of thinking in order to design their algorithms. But even at this early stage, quantum computing is driving new discoveries in healthcare, energy, environmental systems, smart materials, and beyond. As exciting as it sounds, it also comes with its own security challenges, and as we like to say, opportunities. One of these challenges is cryptography. Information encrypted today could be at risk when sufficiently powered quantum computers become available. Some of the schemes we use today in public key cryptographic algorithms to protect our data will not be adequate in a post-quantum computing world. For example, to decrypt a normal 2048-bit RSA key, it would take 300 trillion years with a classical computer, whereas it would only take a day in a fault-tolerant quantum computer. Encryption is a fundamentally important part of any business operation. It allows you to have cryptographically provable confidence in the confidentiality and integrity of your data. If you store data in AWS services, then we already mitigate against store and decrypt attacks on the encrypted data in the service. And AWS provides no method or data path for access to ciphertext that AWS created on your behalf. So it is difficult for the threat actors to retrieve and store such ciphertext for later study. The encryption keys travel solely within the AWS control plane, and the ciphertext is only visible on the AWS physical network. So AWS is leading in the development of quantum-resistant cloud-scale cryptographic technology and is working with the National Institutes of Standards and Technology and the broader cryptographic community to help standardization efforts. We also maintain and contribute to many open source projects on post-quantum crypto algorithms and tools, such as the AWS-LC, a general purpose post-quantum cryptographic library and Open Quantum Safe that contains a set of tools for prototyping and benchmarking post-quantum cryptographic algorithms. The migration to PQC may not happen overnight, but it's well underway. And it has the potential to impact everyone that uses public key crypto today. At Amazon, we know the value of long-term thinking, and we routinely make big long-term investments in availability and security based upon our belief of where the world is going. Post-quantum cryptography is another example of an area where we are investing for your future. To help you evaluate the readiness of your application on AWS, we offer the option to run quantum-resistant cryptography alongside your traditional cryptography in your applications today. We've contributed to a draft standard on the post-quantum hybrid key exchange and implemented and deployed the community-developed specification in S2N TLS, which implements the transport layer security protocol across all of AWS. And we've developed hybrid key exchange to our most secure security-sensitive services like AWS Key Management Service, Certificate Manager, Secrets Manager. You can begin testing the impact of post-quantum cryptography in your applications by enabling hybrid post-quantum TLS in your AWS SDK. As part of our shared responsibility model, we are hoping to add post-quantum cryptographic capabilities in more AWS services so that you can prepare for a more secure future. I never get tired explaining what security is, and I'm excited to come to work every day because our job is never done. In a landscape where everything is constantly evolving and we get to tackle new challenges and find different ways to stay ahead in our defense mechanisms, throughout this keynote, we talked about the security strategies, how our security strategy is deeply rooted in shared responsibility, and how we are constantly innovating to help keep you and help you meet your security and business needs. As we get ready for the exciting couple of days ahead of us, let's remember to embrace the spirit of enthusiasm and curiosity. Learning should be an exciting adventure that sparks innovation within us. So make sure to immerse yourself in engaging sessions, productive discussions, and the opportunity to create valuable connections. Together, we can create a formidable defense against the threats that lie ahead. Our collective knowledge is the foundation of a resilient security ecosystem. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey where we're just getting started. Reinforce 2023 will be an unforgettable celebration of security and innovation in the shared pursuit of knowledge. Let's build trust and secure the future together. Thank you.